This book is about luck disguised and perceived as non-luck, that is, skills, and, more generally, randomness disguised and perceived as non-randomness, that is, determinism. It manifests itself in the shape of the lucky fool, defined as a person who benefited from a disproportionate share of luck, but attributes his success to some other, generally very precise, reason. Such confusion crops up in the most unexpected areas, even science, though not in such an accentuated and obvious manner as it does in the world of business. It is endemic in politics, as it can be encountered in the shape of a country's president discoursing on the jobs that he created, his recovery, and his predecessors' inflation. We are still very close to our ancestors who roamed the savannah. The formation of our beliefs is fraught with superstitions. Even today, I might say, especially today. Just as one day some primitive tribesman scratched his nose, saw rain falling, and developed an elaborate method of scratching his nose to bring on the much-needed rain, we link economic prosperity to some rate cut by the Federal Reserve Board, or the success of a company with the appointment of the new president at the helm. Bookstores are full of biographies of successful men and women presenting their specific explanation on how they made it big in life. We have an expression, the right time and the right place, to weaken whatever conclusion can be inferred from them. This confusion strikes people of different persuasions. The literature professor invests a deep meaning into a mere coincidental occurrence of word patterns, while the economist proudly detects regularities and anomalies in data that are plain random. At the cost of appearing biased, I have to say that the literary mind can be intentionally prone to the confusion between noise and meaning, that is, between a randomly constructed arrangement and a precisely intended message. However, this causes little harm. Few claim that art is a tool of investigation of the truth, rather than an attempt to escape it or make it more palatable. Symbolism is the child of our inability and unwillingness to accept randomness. We give meaning to all manner of shapes. We detect human figures in ink blots. I saw mosques in the clouds, announced Arthur Rimbaud, the 19th century French symbolic poet. This interpretation took him to poetic Abyssinia in East Africa, where he was brutalized by a Christian Lebanese slave dealer, contracted syphilis, and lost a leg to gangrene. He gave up poetry in disgust at the age of 19 and died anonymously in a Marseille hospital ward while still in his 30s. But it was too late. European intellectual life developed what seems to be an irreversible taste for symbolism. We are still paying its price with psychoanalysis and other fads. Regrettably, some people play the game too seriously. They are paid to read too much into things. All my life I have suffered the conflict between my love of literature and poetry and my profound allergy to most teachers of literature and critics. The French thinker and poet Paul Valéry was surprised to listen to a commentary of his poems that found meanings that had until then escaped him. Of course, it was pointed out to him that these were intended by his subconscious. More generally, we underestimate the share of randomness in about everything, a point that may not merit a book, except when it is the specialist who is the fool of all fools. Disturbingly, science has only recently been able to handle randomness. The growth in available information has been exceeded only by the expansion of noise. Probability theory is a young arrival in mathematics. Probability applied to practice is almost non-existent as a discipline. In addition, we seem to have evidence that what is called courage comes from an underestimation of the share of randomness in things rather than the more noble ability to stick one's neck out for a given belief. In my experience, and in the scientific literature, economic risk-takers are rather the victims of delusions, leading to over-optimism and overconfidence with their underestimation of possible adverse outcomes, than the opposite. Their risk-taking is frequently randomness foolishness.